Well, the West is feeling. We'll talk about the West a little bit later on. Let's talk about what's going on here in the Atlanta metro area, all the way across the South, back into Alabama and Mississippi. Pictures like this are widespread throughout the region. We're continuing to see flooding, and flood watches are up covering much of the South, where in some cases, particularly west of Atlanta, we have seen as much as 20 inches of rain. Still, much more could fall. We'll be watching this area in particular as we get through your afternoon and evening hours, and we'll give you the live reports too, showing you just how fast that water is rising. Vivian?
Well, let me tell you, people in the southeast are wondering when will the rain finally stop, and the answer, unfortunately, is not soon enough. North Georgia, very saturated, and yet more rain is falling. And let's turn to our storm tracker, Jim Cantore. He's been following the Peachtree Creek area in Atlanta, one of the bigger creeks in the area, in the downtown vicinity. And Jim, this could be the worst flooding since Ivan back in 2004.
And it is, Vivian, actually. We had a 4 o'clock crest here of 21.85 feet. Ivan was 22.7, so we're within a foot of Ivan and through here. And what's interesting to me is I've talked to a lot of people that were either living here at the time or were down here, and they said, Jim, this is actually higher than Ivan. Quite frankly, I mean, from what we see, it's higher than Ivan. Let me get you situated. We're at Sagamore right here, which is kind of an up-down hill, and down there, of course, is a very heavily traveled north side drive, typically at this time for rush hour. And you'll notice that a car top sitting right there. Someone actually tried to drive through here, and unfortunately, they didn't make it. The good news is they made it, and they got out of the car, and they made their way, obviously, to dry ground. But that car is obviously toast. You can see, go ahead and zoom in, if you will, Mike. We're going to zoom right down to the road. You can see, Vivian, that the water is flowing across Northside Drive and into Peachtree Creek. So there's quite a rush of water coming in there. Now, up just down to the south, probably about a quarter of a mile, there's a large tree down on north side, so that makes it impassable for that reason, but also with the water flowing across it as well. I want to show you some pictures here of this area, as long as I'm out of here, guys. Let's show you, I think we're going to do Powder Springs first, and then I want to show you the school bus turning around, because this is a huge story, a developing story here in Atlanta this afternoon. You know, when you go to Powder Springs, there's usually a nice sign in some of these Georgia towns that welcome you. This is an Atlanta suburb, by the way. Well, you can barely see that Powder Springs sign. And earlier today, a report out of Cobb County, Georgia, which is where Powder Springs is, reports over 100 roads closed. Now, a lot of those roads are actually used to bring kids home from school. There was school in many areas today, all right? And look at this. Here's what shot that we just shot recently here at Northside Drive, where you can see that school bus actually turning around. Now, I thought that was kind of late at 4 o'clock to be seeing a school bus. Many school buses trying to find alternate routes home, not only in Cobb, but also in Fulton and in Gwinnett County as well. Some of the children tonight that went to school this morning may actually have to go back to the school and spend the night at the school. So that's a developing story that we're following for you. Guys, when I came to you at 4 o'clock, this is where the water was, all right? We're up probably another 5 inches. And the good news is it looks like the water has at least slowed its upward progression. But the damage is done, Viv and Nick. Look at this. Here's a new house that was built after Ivan. You can see water just sitting there. Actually, you know what? Look at this. We got a school bus, guys, that's parked on Northside Drive over here. I wonder if they're actually having the parents come pick them up at the school bus. That's been there now for a little while, so I'm wondering if that's what's going on there. And that may be the case here in Atlanta this afternoon. More homes flooded to my right, to my left. 2 handicapped people, unfortunately, living in this house right here, guys. They had to be taken out, and they just left a little while ago. But the water has come up all the way to the front stoop, which is where they told me it was during Ivan. But look at that window right there. Water just pouring out of it. They've got the pumps on. Obviously, there's enough power to keep pumping that water out, but it's of no avail because of the fact that the water's still rising. Look at the way the water's coming around the backside of the house already. So already, again, think of a basement below this first level, which is where the water is right now, and continuing to make its way through this area. So houses have been flooded. Trees and power lines have been knocked down, obviously. We just saw a flash of lightning. So we are by no means out of the woods. We could have another long night ahead of us, guys, and even through the day tomorrow as well, with more rain in the forecast. There's no place for it to go. Back to you.
Well, Jim, tell me this, exactly where you're standing, that is a road, that used to be a road? I mean,
yes, this road is Sagamore Street,
okay, I can
Vivian,
see
and it goes all the way down, and it goes all the way down to North Side. All right, and this time of the day, Viv, North Side would be packed with people going home from rush hour. But as you can see, nobody's going anywhere due to a tree up the road and the fact that the water is actually gushing from this overflow area down into Peachtree Creek, which is on the other side of the trees and the lights that you see back there.
Oh, water just everywhere. Thank you very much. Storm Tracker Jim Cantore in the Atlanta metro area, again, where flooding is a huge, huge concern. But not only in northern Georgia, all across the southeast. And here's Nick with a look at the radar.
Yeah, we are continuing to see the rain come down here into portions of Alabama, where we've even seen some strong thunderstorms in the southwestern part of the state, some of which could produce some tornadoes. We'll be paying close attention to these storms as we get through the afternoon and evening hours, in addition to all of the flooding that continues to go on throughout this region. A lot of this up into North Georgia now, where just last week we had flooding rains, saturated ground already there. That's the problem. The rain continuing to fall heavily on ground that just can't soak it up. Stay with us for more on the flooding problem too.